Hello everyone. Subscribe to the channel to get more videos. Also, let us know in the comments what city you are watching from. Now let's begin this one. I had spent the last 3 days at a medical conference in Phoenix, learning about the latest advancements in orthopedics, networking with colleagues, and eating overpriced hotel food. It was all fine and well, but I was more than ready to get back to Willow Ridge. I've been missing Laura like crazy. My name is Luke Bradford. I'm 42 years old, and I've been married to Laura for 15 years. We've got a house in a quiet suburban neighborhood where the most exciting thing that happens is when someone's sprinkler breaks or the neighborhood kids get caught sneaking into Mrs. Henderson's backyard pool. I thought about that as I drove home from the airport, calling Laura to let her know I was on my way. The phone rang a few times before she picked up. "Hey, babe," I said, the excitement in my voice almost embarrassing. "I'm about an hour away. I'll be home soon. Can't wait to see you." There was a long pause, a silence that made my stomach drop for a second. Then, her voice finally came through, but it wasn't the warm, familiar tone I was expecting. "Luke," she said, her voice colder than I'd ever heard it. "I'm actually changing the locks today. You're not going to be able to get in." I felt like the ground shifted under my feet. "What? Laura, what are you talking about?" I tried to keep my voice steady, but there was a rising panic I couldn't hide. "I'm serious," she continued, her voice devoid of the softness I was used to. "You're not living here anymore." I didn't know what to say. I was still driving, but my eyes darted to the rearview mirror, my heart beating fast. "Laura, what's going on? Why would you say that?" Her voice was firm, almost detached. "Just get to the house. You'll see." And then, before I could respond, she hung up. I stared at the phone in my hand, utterly confused. Something was wrong. I hadn't sensed anything unusual the last time we'd talked. She'd been fine, we'd made plans for the weekend, and everything seemed normal. I could feel the anxiety rising in my chest as I kept my hands tied on the steering wheel, my thoughts spinning out of control. What had happened while I was gone? Why was she acting like this? When I pulled up to the house, it felt surreal. The familiar sight of the front yard, the white picket fence, and the mailbox with our names on it should have brought comfort, but it didn't. It felt like I was walking into a stranger's life. I approached the garage, punching in the code to open it. But when I hit enter, nothing happened. I tried again, thinking maybe I'd made a mistake, but the same thing. The door didn't budge. I frowned, the knot in my stomach growing tighter. I pulled out my house key and inserted it into the lock, but again, nothing. The key didn't fit. I knocked on the door, my heart thudding in my chest now. "Laura," I called, my voice faltering. "Laura, what's going on? Let me in." She opened the door a crack, just enough for me to see her face. Her expression was unreadable, but her eyes were cold, distant. I'd never seen her look at me like that before. "I changed the locks, Luke," she said, her words chilling me to my core. "You don't live here anymore." The words stung like a slap. I couldn't speak. My mind raced, trying to process what she had just said. Before I could respond, a man I didn't recognize stepped up behind Laura, holding an envelope in his hand. He handed it to me without a word. I looked down at it, confused, and slowly took it from his hand. "You've been served," he said, his tone flat. I glanced up, still processing. "Served? What the hell is this?" Laura didn't speak. She just stood there, watching me, her arms crossed, her expression almost unreadable. The stranger stepped back as another man appeared at the end of the driveway, a security guard in uniform. "Sir, you need to leave," the security guard said, his voice firm. "You've been asked to vacate the premises. If you don't leave voluntarily, I'll be forced to call the police." I looked between the two men, still holding the envelope, my brain trying to catch up with the reality of the situation. What was going on? Why wasn't Laura saying anything more? Why was she doing this? I glanced back at the house, at the life we had built together, and then at Lara's cold, expressionless face. The shock hit me like a wave, but I held myself together. "Laura," I said quietly, my voice shaking. "What is this? Why are you doing this?" She didn't answer. She just stood there, looking at me with no trace of warmth, no hint of the woman I had spent years loving. With a heavy heart and a sense of betrayal I couldn't quite name, I turned to leave. As I walked back to my car, I heard Lara's voice, distant and final. "Don't come back, Luke. You're not welcome here anymore." I slid into the driver's seat, my mind reeling, my hands shaking. I looked out the windshield at the house one last time, wondering how everything had gone so wrong in so little time. I pulled out of the driveway and drove away, not knowing where to go or what to do next. just knowing that my world had just shattered in a way I never expected. I woke up in a rundown extended stay hotel room, the fluorescent lights flickering above my bed. The room smelled faintly of stale coffee and bleach, and the thin, scratchy carpet didn't exactly scream luxury. My suitcases were half unpacked by the bed, and I had a faint, pounding headache from the exhaustion of the night before. The first thing I did when I opened my eyes was check my phone. There were a dozen missed calls, most of them from Laura, a few from my boss. My throat tightened. I ignored the calls from Laura, but I called my hospital's chief administrator, Janice Doyle, knowing I needed to explain my absence, at least on the professional front. "Look, where are you? We have a meeting in an hour. Are you coming in today?" she asked, sounding as brisk as ever. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. "Janice, I'm not going to make it in today." There was a long silence. "Why? You've been gone for 3 days already." I took a breath, looking at the cracked paint on the walls of the hotel room. "I'm having some personal issues. I need to take some time off." Janice's voice turned colder, businesslike. "Personal issues? Look, we need you here. I'm afraid we'll have to conduct an internal review if you're going to be absent for an extended period. You should have notified me sooner." I felt a chill run down my spine. "I understand, Janice. I'll get back to you soon." I hung up before she could say anything else. My stomach dropped. I didn't even know what soon meant anymore. There were no guarantees, no job, no home, no wife. I ran a hand over my face, trying to focus. I needed to figure something out. But first, I had to deal with something else. Something more immediate. I reached for my phone again, this time pulling up my bank account. My fingers hovered over the screen as I clicked through to check my balance. My heart sank. All the joint accounts Laura and I had shared were empty. There were no more savings, no more funds to cover anything. Just a few $1,000s in my personal account, the kind of balance that would only last me a week or two if I was lucky. I leaned back against the bed, my mind spinning. I had been so absorbed in the idea of being a good provider, of making sure Laura and I were secure, that I didn't notice the hole getting bigger until it was too late. I felt like a fool. She drained everything while I was away, and I didn't even know why. Was this all part of some bigger plan? I needed answers. And that's when I remembered something. A few weeks before I left for the conference, Laura had mentioned a lawyer. Not in passing, but in a way that made me think she was talking about something serious. Something I hadn't paid attention to because I was too busy with work, with life. But now, sitting in this sterile hotel room, everything felt different. All those little things I had overlooked, tiny warnings, subtle shifts, were suddenly loud and clear. I grabbed my jacket from the chair and pulled on a fresh shirt. I had to move fast. I needed legal advice. I couldn't sit here any longer waiting for answers to fall into my lap. I searched online for a law firm that might help. After a few frustrating phone calls, I found a low-profile firm named McAdams & Hunt. Their website looked basic, but it would have to do. They seemed like they could offer a fresh perspective. The receptionist on the phone was kind enough, though I could hear the professionalism in her tone when I explained my situation. "I'll schedule an appointment with Mr. Ronan Hunt for you. He's our lead attorney." I quickly agreed, and within an hour, I was sitting in a nondescript office across from a man named Ronan Hunt. He looked like a man who'd spent years handling complicated cases. His suit was well-tailored, but his manner wasn't cold, just careful. He listened as I explained my side of the story, as much as I understood it. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair, his eyes studying me. "This situation with your wife, Luke, is serious. It sounds like there's more going on here than just a sudden decision to change locks. We'll need to look into the financials, the timing of all this. Divorce papers, I assume?" I nodded. "Yeah, I was served last night." "I can help you with this," Ronan said, his voice calm but firm. "But understand this. Lara's actions? They've been calculated. The stay-away order, that's not something you can just undo. It's going to take time." I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. I didn't even know things had gotten this far. I thought everything was fine. He raised an eyebrow. "It rarely happens overnight. But you need to brace yourself for what's coming. You'll need legal counsel for the divorce, and you'll need to protect your finances. I'd also suggest we look into your wife's history, her connections. It's possible this isn't all personal." I didn't know what he meant by that, but I could feel the pit in my stomach growing. There were too many unknowns. Too many pieces of the puzzle I couldn't see. "What else can you do for me?" I asked, my voice low. "We'll get the ball rolling on the divorce," Ronan replied. and we'll start tracking down the financial discrepancies. But in the meantime, you'll need to be smart. Keep a low profile. Protect your assets. My mind raced with the thought of everything I had worked for, everything I had built in this life, slipping through my fingers like sand. As I left McAdams and Hunt's office, the streets of Willow Ridge felt like they belonged to someone else. It didn't feel like home anymore. It didn't feel like anything. I was alone. For the first time in years, it was just me. And I didn't know what came next. The next morning, I was back at my hotel room, pacing the floor. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something crucial. I had no idea what it was, but I could feel it in my gut. I had already met with Ronan Hunt, and while he had laid out a plan, it still didn't feel like enough. I needed more. I needed answers that went deeper than the legal paperwork he was handling for me. I picked up my phone again and scrolled through a few more pages of legal sites, hoping something would click. But nothing seemed right. Too many firms with slick websites, too many sales pitches. I needed someone who could understand the bigger picture, someone who could look past the surface. That's when I remembered Ronan's suggestion. "Ronan," I said, dialing his office number again. He picked up almost immediately. "Luke, everything okay? I was thinking more about what you said yesterday, about Lara's connections. What did you mean by that? Is there something I should know about her, beyond the divorce?" Ronan paused for a moment, as if weighing his words. "I'm not sure yet, but it sounds like this isn't just a personal matter. There may be professional interests at play here, too." I didn't understand what he was getting at. "What does that mean?" "Her job. I can't say for sure yet. But her involvement in certain circles, especially with the amount of money involved in the situation, raises some red flags. I've got someone on my team I trust who specializes in these things. I'll make sure they start digging. But we may need to expand the scope of our investigation." I felt a small ripple of hope. "Who are we talking about?" "Quinn Hunt," Ronan replied. "She's my sister, but she runs a private investigative firm that specializes in online reputation management and background investigations. If anyone can dig into Lara's professional world and uncover anything you need to know, it's Quinn. I'll give her a call and have her get in touch." I thanked him and hung up. That was the lead I needed, the lead that would give me the real insight into what was happening. If there was something more to this story than just a broken marriage, I needed to know. Not long after, I received a call from an unknown number. My heart skipped a beat. Was it Lara? Had she finally reached out to explain herself? I answered quickly, trying to keep my voice steady. "Hello. Luke Bradford." The voice on the other end was sharp, no nonsense. "This is Quinn Hunt. I hear you're in need of some answers." I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. "Yes, Ronan mentioned you. He said you might be able to help." "I can do more than help," Quinn replied, her voice cool but confident. "I can get answers." "What exactly are you looking for?" I paused, considering how much to reveal. But I was beyond the point of hiding anything. If I was going to move forward, I needed to know the full picture. I've been locked out of my house. My wife served me with divorce papers while I was away, and now I find myself cut off from everything. My job, my finances. I need to know what she's been involved in, who she's been involved with, and why she's acting like this. Quinn was silent for a moment. "You think there's more to this than just a divorce?" "I'm starting to," I admitted. "There's something off. I don't know what yet, but I can feel it. I don't believe it's just a simple marriage breakdown." She hummed thoughtfully on the other end of the line. "All right, Luke. I'll take the case. First things first, your wife's history, her connections, and any other skeletons she's been hiding. We'll need to go through everything: her professional background, social media activity, financials. Anything that could tie her to a bigger picture." I nodded, though I knew she couldn't see it. "How long will it take?" "I'll start immediately. But it won't be quick. The deeper we dig, the more we uncover. And the more we uncover, the harder it might be to handle. So prepare yourself." A cold shiver ran down my spine. "I can handle it." "You sure about that?" Quinn asked, her voice still sharp. "Because it sounds like you're dealing with more than just a betrayal. This could get messy." "I don't care how messy it gets. I just want to know the truth." "Good. I'll get to work," Quinn said. "You'll hear from me soon." As the call ended, I felt a new kind of clarity settle over me. I was no longer just trying to pick up the pieces of a broken life. I was starting to uncover something far bigger than that, something far more dangerous. The unsettling feeling in my gut hadn't faded. If anything, it had grown stronger. Something was going on here, and I was finally starting to dig into the dirt. But the deeper I went, the more I knew I was going to wish I hadn't. And still, I couldn't stop myself. The need for answers had taken root deep inside me. Now I had no choice but to see it through. A few days passed before I heard back from Quinn. The waiting was excruciating. Every time my phone buzzed, I jumped, expecting to hear something, anything, that would explain why Laura had done this to me. But mostly, I was left alone with my thoughts that churned and twisted and never seemed to land on anything solid. I was sitting in my hotel room, staring at the muted TV, when my phone buzzed again. Quinn. I picked it up on the second ring, trying to sound calm. Luke Bradford. Hey, Luke. Quinn Hunt here. Her voice was direct, professional, with an undertone of something I couldn't quite place. I've got some things for you. Are you ready to hear it? I swallowed, suddenly feeling the weight of what she might have uncovered. Yeah. What did you find? Quinn wasted no time. I started digging into your wife's professional life, her past associations, her social circles. Let me tell you, Laura isn't as clean as you might think. She's been involved with some people I think you'll want to know about. I felt a twinge of dread. What do you mean by people? Let's start with her boss, Damian Webb, she said, her voice flat. He's the CEO of a private medical marketing firm. They've worked together for a while, and it seems their connection goes deeper than just business. I paused. What kind of connection? Quinn sighed. Laura and Webb, well, it's more than just professional. There's an affair going on. I couldn't get direct confirmation yet, but I found enough to make it clear. And it lines up with the timeline of her divorce preparations. My stomach dropped. The image of Laura, the woman I'd trusted for years, with some CEO behind my back, made bile rise in my throat. It didn't make sense. I'd been blindsided. Is that all? Is it just the affair? Quinn's voice tightened slightly. Not quite. I dug a bit into Damian Webb's financial dealings, and I found something interesting. He's a significant donor to local political campaigns tied to some pretty important figures. In fact, he's even connected to the judge who signed the stay-away order Laura had filed against you. I leaned forward, my mind spinning. So you're telling me the man she's having an affair with might be connected to the judge who made this order? Is that why the judge granted it? That's what I'm getting at. It's looking more and more like this isn't just about your marriage. There's money involved here. Political leverage. Connections that could affect not just your divorce, but the rest of your life. I was silent, trying to digest everything. The idea that Lara's actions were more calculated than I had realized, using the affair to secure some kind of power, manipulating her way through the system, it sickened me. Quinn kept going, her tone sharp as she connected the dots. There's something else. A few months ago, Laura made a sizable donation to a charity event, one that Damian Webb's company had a hand in sponsoring. Nothing suspicious, just a large donation under her name. But here's the kicker. After that, her behavior changed. She became more secretive, more distant, like she had something to hide. I ran a hand over my face, overwhelmed. I had suspected Laura had changed. Her distant attitude in the last few months, her sudden coldness, it all made sense now, in the worst way. And the divorce papers? I asked, though I could already guess the answer. Quinn sighed. Everything points to Laura preparing for this move. She's been planning the divorce, the stay-away order, all while covering her tracks. It's not just about leaving you. It's about making sure she's positioned in a way where she's financially secure, possibly with Webb's help, or with political connections from his donors. That's why she's been pushing you away. The truth is, she doesn't need you anymore. She's got someone else now. I could feel the weight of her words settling on my shoulders. I had always thought of Laura as someone I could trust, someone who was solid, predictable. But now, she seemed like a stranger, manipulating me in ways I couldn't have imagined. Quinn's voice softened. Look, Luke, I'm just getting started, but it's clear this is bigger than just a failed marriage. There's a financial and political game at play here. Your divorce might be the least of your problems. I felt a sharp pang of panic in my chest. So what do I do now? Quinn's response was cool, calculating. You fight back. We'll need to challenge the divorce, challenge that stay-away order. You've got leverage, this affair, these connections. It's time you take control. I'm not saying this is going to be easy, but we've got the upper hand now. You just need to keep your head straight and focus on getting the truth out there. For a brief moment, the weight of everything felt unbearable. My life had been uprooted, my trust shattered. But Quinn was right. I had to fight back. If there was anything I had learned, it was that I couldn't let Laura or Damian Webb get away with this. Not when my life, my future, was on the line. Okay, I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. Let's do it. I'll follow your lead. Quinn was silent for a beat, then responded. Good. You've got the truth on your side, Luke. Now, let's make sure the rest of the world hears it. The call ended, and I sat there in the dim light of my hotel room, trying to process everything Quinn had just told me. It wasn't just a marriage falling apart anymore. It was something much darker, with more layers than I could have imagined. I was no longer just fighting for my marriage. I was fighting to uncover the truth. And this fight wasn't over yet. The next few days were a blur of frantic calls and late nights spent digging through every piece of information Quinn had provided me. I couldn't sit still, couldn't let my mind rest. The more I learned, the more the anger festered inside me. Lara's betrayal was one thing. Hell, that was already enough to leave me seething. But now, with the political connections, the affair with Damian Webb, and the money trail, I felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, staring down at a mess that went far deeper than I had ever imagined. But it wasn't just about fighting for my dignity anymore. This was about exposing the truth. It wasn't just my life that had been torn apart. It was a carefully constructed web of lies, manipulations, and power plays. And I was going to make sure the world saw it. That's when Quinn called me again, her voice brimming with energy. Luke, I've got something that could blow this wide open. My heart skipped a beat. What is it? I've been talking to a contact of mine in the media, Clara Vane. She runs a YouTube channel called Tea with Clara. She specializes in exposing scandals, and she's got a knack for getting things to go viral. I think she could help you turn this around. I hesitated. I'm not sure I want to go that route. I don't need to air my dirty laundry for the world to see. Quinn's voice was unrelenting. Luke, you've got to understand. If you just keep quiet, you let Lara's narrative take over. She's got a powerful network. But you've got the truth on your side. This isn't just about getting back at her. It's about exposing what she's done. If we play this right, Tea with Clara can help. We need to control the narrative. I felt a pit form in my stomach. I wasn't ready for my life to be broadcast to the world. But deep down, I knew she was right. If I didn't do this, I would be fighting a losing battle. All right, I said, my voice strained. Let's do it. A few hours later, I was standing outside the same house I'd been locked out of just days earlier. Quinn had arranged everything. The plan was simple but bold. I was going to retell the story of my divorce and everything that had happened in front of the camera. Quinn set up the filming in my car, as if to capture the raw emotion of the situation, and had the idea of reenacting the day I was served the papers. It felt like a strange sort of therapy, walking through the event again, but with the knowledge that soon enough, the world would be watching. The cameras rolled, and Clara Vane, the bubbly and sharp-witted YouTuber who had somehow turned trash talk into an art form, stood behind the camera. Her approach was blunt, her questions cutting, but in a way that made me feel like I wasn't being manipulated. She had a way of pulling the truth out of people, even when they didn't want to admit it. So, Luke, Clara said, tilting her head with a dramatic flair. Let's go back to the day it all went down. You come home, expecting a warm embrace from your wife, only to get the door slammed in your face. What was going through your head? I tried to steady my breathing as I recalled that moment, the shock and confusion that had hit me like a freight train. I thought I was walking into my life, you know? I thought I was going to come home to my wife, Laura. But instead, I was locked out, served divorce papers, and then told to leave. Clara's voice softened, but there was an edge to it. And then the bombshell, Laura tells you she's changed the locks. But it wasn't just about the divorce. It was about everything you had built together. Tell me about that. I had to swallow the lump in my throat. It wasn't just a marriage falling apart. It was everything. The house, our life, everything I worked for. And she was gone, leaving me in the dust without a word. No explanation. Just cold detachment. Clara's camera zoomed in, focusing on my face as I spoke. It was strange to be so vulnerable in front of a camera, but I knew what she was doing. She was framing the story, making it something that people would want to watch, making it something personal. And that was the power she had, turning raw emotion into a story everyone could follow. What does this say about Laura? She pressed. Was this all part of a plan? Or was it just a sudden change of heart? I hesitated for a moment, then answered with certainty. It wasn't just a change of heart. It was planned. She had an affair with Damian Webb. And everything she did, every move she made, was calculated. This wasn't just about leaving me. It was about securing her future. Clara nodded, clearly impressed. So the affair wasn't just about love, was it? I shook my head. No, it was business. She was positioning herself, tying herself to someone powerful. I was just in the way. Clara stepped into the frame now, her energy shifting. And now, you've decided to take control of the story, turn the tables on Lara and Webb. But let's not forget, your story isn't just about betrayal. It's about reclaiming your life, your dignity. I let out a long breath. Exactly. This isn't just a fight for my marriage. It's a fight to expose the truth. I want people to know what really happened, not just what Lara wants them to believe. With that, Clara stood back and waved her hand. All right, let's wrap it up for today. But here's what we're going to do. This video's going to hit the internet, and the truth's going to spread like wildfire. People love a good scandal. And when they see this, they're going to want to hear more. As the filming ended, I felt a strange mix of relief and dread. The video, once edited, would go live. And once it did, I would no longer be the man who had been blindsided. I would be the one sharing the truth with the world, no matter how hard it would be. I didn't know what the fallout would be. But one thing was clear, there was no going back now. When the video was posted online, the impact was immediate. It exploded. The comments section was flooded with reactions, and social media quickly caught fire. People watched as I reenacted the shock of being locked out, the confusion of being served divorce papers, and the raw pain of betrayal. And in the middle of it all, I saw the hashtags trending. Hashtag the banished doc. Hashtag team doc. As the video went viral, I sat back, watching as my story took on a life of its own. It wasn't just about Lara anymore. It was about something much bigger, something I was going to fight for until the end. But as I read through the comments, one thing was clear, the tide had begun to turn. It didn't take long for the fallout from the viral video to hit. Within hours of tea with Clara posting the footage, my life started to spiral in ways I couldn't have predicted. Social media exploded with reactions, some sympathetic, others vicious, but all of them eager to weigh in. The hashtags hashtag TeamDoc and hashtag the banished doc were trending. People were dissecting every word I said, every emotion I showed in the video. My inbox was flooded with messages, friends from the hospital, old colleagues, even people I'd never met, all sharing their opinions on what had happened. At first, I was numb to it all. But as the days passed, the impact of what I'd done started to sink in. There was no going back now. The world knew my story, and while some people sympathized with me, others tore into me, questioning my role in the breakdown of my marriage, as if I were just as much to blame. But none of that mattered anymore. The more I saw the comments, the more I realized that people weren't just curious about the drama. They wanted answers. They wanted to know the truth. And that's what I was going to give them. Quinn had been hard at work. While I was consumed by the aftermath of the video, she was deep diving into Lara's connections. And today, she called with the first real breakthrough. "Luke," Quinn said on the phone, her voice full of energy. "You're not going to believe what I just uncovered." I sat up straight, the weight of everything suddenly pressing down on me. "What is it?" "I found something in Damian Webb's financials," she continued. "A trail of transactions that ties him directly to Lara's divorce proceedings and a whole lot more." I felt my heart skip a beat. "What do you mean by a whole lot more?" "There's a connection between Webb's company and several campaign donations," Quinn said. These donations were made to a super PAC that supported political candidates with ties to local judges, including the one who granted Lara's stay-away order. "The Webb is bigger than I thought." I could barely breathe. "So you're saying Webb isn't just some businessman having an affair with my wife? He's using political leverage to control the divorce?" "It's looking like that," Quinn replied, her tone grave. "But there's more. Webb's company was also involved in a charity event that Lara made a large donation to, just a few months before she filed for divorce. I'm guessing it's not just about money anymore. It's about power, influence, and positioning." My head was spinning. This is insane." "I'm not done yet," Quinn added, her voice steady. "I've managed to get my hands on the footage from that charity event. Some security cam footage that shows Lara and Webb together, acting like more than just colleagues. It's subtle, but it's there. They're too close, Luke." And that's when everything clicked. The affair wasn't just an emotional betrayal, it was a calculated move. I was silent for a moment, my thoughts racing. So she's been using me the whole time, pretending to be this loving wife while lining up her future with Webb? Quinn's voice softened. "I think she's been playing a game much bigger than you, and much bigger than just your marriage. But now, we've got proof. It's time to expose it." I felt the blood rushing to my head. My thoughts were a whirlwind. Lara had always been a good actress, but I never imagined she was playing me, playing us both, like this. "What do you need from me?" I asked, my voice sharp now, determined. I need you to help me get the footage from the charity event to the right people, Quinn said. I've got connections in the media, and once this goes public, it won't just be your story, it'll be hers too. We can expose Webb, his connections, and the dirty politics behind all of this. I thought about everything that had led up to this moment, the betrayal, the isolation, the feelings of helplessness. I couldn't let Laura get away with this. Not when I knew the truth. Not when I could do something about it. I'm in, I said, feeling the weight of my decision, but also the spark of something I hadn't felt in days, resolve. Let's do it. Quinn's voice was sharp with satisfaction. All right, Luke. I'll take care of the rest. I'll make sure the footage gets to the right people. You just focus on keeping yourself together and being ready for the storm that's coming. I hung up the phone and sat back in my chair, staring at the wall in front of me. This was bigger than I could have imagined. But now that I had a part to play in exposing it, I felt more alive than I had in weeks. The fight wasn't over. It was just beginning. A few days later, I was back in the hospital, trying to keep my head down, to avoid the whispers that had started to follow me. I had been placed on leave pending an internal investigation into the scandal, though I knew that wasn't the real reason I was being sidelined. The video was still fresh in everyone's mind, and my reputation, once spotless, was now in tatters. The whispers of my colleagues were deafening. As I sat in my office, going through a few patient files, I heard a knock on the door. I looked up to see Janice Doyle, the chief administrator, standing in the doorway. Luke, she said, her voice cool but not unkind. We need to talk. I stood, feeling the tension in my shoulders. Sure. What's going on? HR has recommended we put you on a leave of absence, pending the results of the investigation into the video and the allegations made against you. It's a formality, but I think you know why it's happening. I nodded. I do. But I'm not guilty of anything. This isn't about my job. It's about my personal life. Janice didn't look convinced, but she didn't press the issue. I'll make sure the investigation is handled fairly, but I don't need to tell you how much this is affecting your standing here. I let out a breath, the frustration building again. I get it, Janice. It's not easy for me either. Her expression softened. Just be careful, Luke. There are bigger things at play here. Don't let this blow up further than it already has. As she turned to leave, I couldn't shake the feeling that Janice wasn't just talking about the hospital. She was talking about the mess I was about to get into. And I knew that, with Quinn's help, we were only scratching the surface of what was coming next. The storm was about to hit, and I wasn't about to back down. The days after the video went viral felt like I was standing in the eye of a storm. The initial shock had worn off, but the repercussions hadn't. Every corner of my life was being affected. I was still on leave from the hospital, and my colleagues avoided making eye contact with me in the hallways, whispering behind closed doors. But it wasn't just the hospital that was feeling the heat. The video had put a spotlight on me, on Laura, and on everything she'd tried to hide. The affair, the political connections, the money, all of it was beginning to unravel. I sat in the small, dimly lit office of Quinn Hunt's firm, scrolling through the latest updates. My mind was consumed with a mix of anger and focus. I had taken the first step in reclaiming my life, but now I needed to finish what I started. Quinn was already at her desk, her laptop open, her fingers flying over the keys. She glanced up as I walked in. Luke, you're not going to believe this. Try me, I said, sitting across from her. Clara Vane from Tea with Clara just got back to me. She's on board for a follow-up expose. It's time to flip the script. I raised an eyebrow, my interest piqued. Flip the script. Quinn grinned. We're going to take Laura down, but we're not going to do it quietly. We're going to make sure everyone knows exactly what happened. We've got enough to turn this whole thing around. She leaned forward, her eyes bright with determination. The footage from the charity event. The affair. Damian Webb's involvement. Lara's hidden donations to political campaigns. And we've got more, leaked emails, phone records. Things that tie Lara's sudden coldness to her plans to distance herself from you. You're the victim here, Luke. And it's time we made the world see it. I swallowed hard. And what's the plan? Quinn's fingers hovered over her keyboard as she clicked through files. I've got Clara's team working on a documentary-style video. It's going to be a mix of raw footage, everything that's come out so far, plus interviews from people who've been following the case, including some of Lara's colleagues who are willing to talk about her manipulations. I sat back in my chair, the weight of the decision pressing down on me. Are you sure this is the right move? I'm not just some headline. I've got a life here, a career I've worked my ass off for. I don't know if I can go through with this. Quinn's expression softened, but her voice was firm. You've got two choices, Luke. Let Lara walk away with everything. Her affair, her political games, her lies, and let her ruin your reputation, your career, your future. Or you fight back and show the world the truth. You're already in this, whether you like it or not. She was right. I had been dragged into a war I didn't ask for. But it wasn't just about me anymore. It was about the people who had trusted me, the people who thought they knew me. And Lara, she needed to answer for what she'd done. Okay, I said, my voice steady. Let's do it. Over the next few days, everything escalated. Clara Vane and her team began editing the footage, crafting a powerful narrative about my betrayal and Lara's hidden motives. They interviewed people, including some of my colleagues from the hospital who had seen the shift in Lara's behavior, and a few people from her professional life who were more than willing to share what they knew about her affair with Damian Webb. But the most important part of the strategy was the online campaign. We couldn't just let the story simmer in the shadows. We had to keep the momentum going. Quinn had set up anonymous accounts and used the hashtag #TeamDoc to start flooding social media with snippets of the truth. Videos of Lara and Webb at the charity event, photos from the gala that didn't lie about their closeness, and even leaked text messages that showed Lara's plans to start her new life with Webb, leaving me behind like some forgotten footnote. Within days, the hashtags were everywhere. #TeamDoc trended again, but this time it was different. People were rallying behind me, not just because of the affair, but because they saw the injustice. The support poured in, and while I didn't crave the attention, I could see how powerful it was becoming. The night the documentary-style expose went live, I couldn't sleep. I sat in my hotel room, the screen of my laptop glowing in front of me. Quinn had done it. The video went live at 9 p.m., and by 9:05, it was everywhere. The views skyrocketed, the comments flooded in. It was more than just an expose. It was a full-on reckoning for Lara. In the video, Clara narrated the details of the affair with Damian Webb, the political donations, and Lara's secretive behavior. But it wasn't just about the affair. It was about power. About the way Lara had manipulated the system to secure her future at my expense. I saw the comments roll in as the video gained traction. People were shocked, disgusted, and fascinated. Many of them asked questions that would only lead to more exposure. People wanted more, and Lara couldn't hide anymore. The next day, things started moving fast. The media coverage was relentless. Every news outlet was running the story, resharing clips from Clara's expose. The video had gone viral, and the truth about Lara's betrayal was finally out in the open. Her professional life, her connections with Webb, and the political games she had been playing were no longer hidden behind closed doors. And the fallout was immediate. The hospital called me in for a meeting. Janice Doyle, the chief administrator, sat across from me, her face stern. Look, I have to be honest with you. This video, it's not just a personal matter anymore. It's affecting the hospital's reputation. You're under investigation, pending the results of our internal review. I leaned forward, my jaw clenched. I didn't ask for this to go public. But now that it has, maybe it's time the truth came out. About Lara. About Webb. About the manipulation. Janice didn't respond immediately. She just watched me, like she was trying to figure out what to say next. You may be right, Luke, she said finally, her voice softening just a little. But this isn't going to be easy. There are powerful people involved in this, people with connections. You need to be prepared for what's coming. I'm ready, I said, my voice steady, even though I could feel the weight of the storm about to hit. Janice nodded, but there was no sympathy in her eyes. All right, we'll take it one step at a time. But don't think this won't affect your position here. I didn't care anymore. I had taken control. I had turned the narrative. I wasn't the villain in Lara's story anymore. Now, I was the one telling the truth. The tide had begun to shift, and as I watched the media coverage grow, I realized something. Lara's game was over. And now, I was going to win. The days after the video went viral felt like a blur. It was all moving too fast, too much attention, too many eyes on me. The social media posts, the news articles, the interviews, all of it had become overwhelming. But there was a strange sense of power in it, too. The truth was out. People knew what Lara had done. People knew I wasn't the villain in the story anymore. The media wasn't the only thing making waves. The hospital was too. I hadn't heard much from them at first. The internal review was still in progress, and my leave of absence had stretched into an indefinite period. I spent the days in my hotel room, watching as the scandal took over every corner of my life. But I knew I couldn't keep hiding forever. I had to face the hospital, face Janice, and face the consequences of my actions. But deep down, I knew one thing for certain: I was done letting them control my narrative. I was sitting in the hotel room, scrolling through the latest headlines about the story, when my phone buzzed with an incoming call. I glanced at the screen and saw the name, Janice Doyle. I took a deep breath before answering. Janice. Luke, she said, her voice firm but with an undercurrent of something softer, something that sounded almost sympathetic. I've got news. We've reviewed everything, and we've decided to offer you reinstatement. In fact, we'd like to offer you a promotion as well, given the circumstances. The public's been sympathetic to your side of the story, and we believe you've been wronged. But we also recognize the pressure this whole situation has put on the hospital's image. It's in our best interest to keep you on board. I let her words sink in, the cold weight of them settling over me. She was offering me my job back, but it felt like a consolation prize, like they were trying to throw me a bone to make the scandal go away. So, you want to reinstate me, and you want me to stay here, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. What about the investigation? There will still be an internal investigation, Janice said. But it'll be handled discreetly, and based on the public perception, we believe your role here is still vital. We're prepared to move forward with you as part of the team. I rubbed my temples, the exhaustion of the past few days pressing down on me. This was supposed to be a victory, wasn't it? But somehow it felt hollow. And what do you want in return? I asked, not sure I even cared about the answer. Janice's voice softened, and I could almost hear the hesitation in her words. We're prepared to offer you reinstatement and the promotion, but we also need you to do something for us. We need you to publicly downplay the scandal. We need you to distance yourself from the media frenzy and focus on your work. It's better for everyone if this blows over quickly. If you cooperate, we can make sure this investigation doesn't get out of hand. I let out a bitter laugh, the sound hollow in the quiet room. So, you want me to lie? You want me to pretend this never happened, so the hospital's image isn't tainted? Janice paused for a long moment before answering, her tone defensive. I'm not asking you to lie, look. I'm asking you to focus on your career and let this blow over. We'll handle the rest. You don't have to be involved in the media anymore. We'll help you keep your job and your reputation intact. The idea of going back into the same hospital, working under the same administrators who had thrown me under the bus in the first place, made my skin crawl. How could I go back to pretending everything was normal? How could I go back to a place that allowed a powerful woman like Laura to get away with what she'd done, using the system to get everything she wanted while destroying me in the process? I wasn't some pawn in a corporate game anymore. I wasn't going to let them dictate my life. Janice, I said, my voice low but steady, I don't think you understand. I'm not going to pretend this didn't happen, and I'm not going to let you control this narrative anymore. If I'm going to move forward, I need to make sure the truth is out there completely. That means Laura needs to answer for what she's done. And I'm not going to play nice with a hospital that's more concerned with its image than with what's right. There was a long silence on the other end of the line, and I knew Janice was weighing my words carefully. Are you sure about this? She asked, her voice strained. You're throwing away your career for a scandal. Look, you could have everything back. The promotion, the reinstatement. You could go back to being the respected surgeon you were. But if you keep pushing this, if you keep digging, you risk it all. I let out a long breath, the pressure building in my chest. I've already lost it all. And I don't care about the job anymore. What I care about is exposing the truth. I'm not playing by your rules, Janice. And I'm not playing by Laris. She didn't say anything for a while. When she finally spoke, her voice was sharp, almost resigned. I'll make sure HR knows where you stand. But know this, look, you're not going to get far if you keep pushing. The system is stacked against you. I don't care, I said. I'll take my chances. I hung up the phone and sat there for a moment, staring out the window. The weight of everything, of the media, of the hospital, of Laura, was pressing down on me. But as I thought about everything I had left to lose, the clarity I'd been waiting for finally hit me. I wasn't going to let them control me anymore. Not Laura. Not the hospital. Not anyone. I wasn't the one who had to apologize. And I wasn't going to let this go quietly. The storm was still raging, but now I was ready to fight back. I'd exposed the truth. I'd taken back control. And I wasn't going to stop until Lara's lies were torn apart. As I prepared for the next step in this battle, I realized one thing. I wasn't the only one who had been manipulated. There were bigger players at work here, people who had orchestrated everything behind the scenes. And I was about to expose them all. But as the days passed, I could feel the tension building, knowing that things were about to get a lot more complicated. The tide had shifted, and now I had the power to drown them in their own lies. I hadn't heard from Lara in days. It wasn't surprising. After the video had gone viral, after the media circus started, I knew she would retreat into whatever corner of her life she had left intact. She had to. The walls I'd torn down were too high to rebuild quickly. The public was watching, and while she had tried to control the narrative before, now the truth was out there. But something was gnawing at me, an unsettled feeling in the pit of my stomach. I hadn't heard her side of the story. Not really. She hadn't even tried to explain. She hadn't apologized. I hadn't expected her to. Not after everything she'd done. But even with all the evidence, all the lies she'd told, the affair with Damian Webb, the manipulation, I needed closure. I needed to see her face to face. I knew it was inevitable. It had to happen sooner or later. That evening, my phone buzzed, and when I looked at the screen, I saw the name Lara Bradford flashing back at me. My heart stuttered in my chest before I clicked the call. "Luke," she said, her voice low and controlled, almost too calm. "We need to talk. Can you meet me at the house?" I blinked, the irony of her words not lost on me. The house, my house. The one she'd kicked me out of. The one that had been stripped of everything that used to be mine. I was silent for a moment. "Why now?" I asked, my voice tight. "After everything, why would you want to talk?" "I've been thinking," she said, her voice faltering slightly. "There's a lot I need to explain. It's not what you think." I could hear the underlying urgency in her voice, a crack that she was trying to keep hidden. I wasn't sure if I was ready to hear her explanation, but I knew I had to. This was the moment, the one where I would finally understand the full extent of her betrayal. "Fine," I said. "I'll meet you. But make it quick. I'm done with the games, Lara. This isn't some negotiation. I need to hear the truth." We agreed to meet at the house in an hour. When I pulled up to the house, everything felt different. The familiar driveway, the front door that I had once walked through without hesitation, now seemed like a stranger's property. The house, the life, the future I had thought I was building with Lara, none of it was mine anymore. And yet, I still felt drawn here. Drawn to the wreckage that had once been my home. I walked up to the front door and knocked. Lara opened it, looking nothing like the woman I had spent years loving. Her hair was pulled back into a tight ponytail, and she wore a simple sweater and jeans, but the way she stood there, guarded, distant, made it clear that this was not the woman I knew. Her eyes flicked toward me, and for a brief moment, I saw something like guilt flash in her gaze. But it was gone before I could process it. "Come in," she said, stepping aside. I walked through the door, not sure what I was expecting. The house was still, quiet, like it had been emptied of all the warmth it once held. I could see the small touches I had put into it. Photos on the mantel, the throw pillows I'd picked out for the couch, but everything felt cold now. Lara closed the door behind me, and we stood there in silence for a moment, neither of us knowing where to start. Finally, she spoke, her voice hesitant. "I'm sorry, Luke. I owe you an explanation." I turned to face her, my jaw clenched. "No, Lara. You don't owe me an explanation. You owe me the truth. Why did you do this? Why did you throw away everything we had?" She seemed to hesitate, as if she were searching for the right words. She sighed and finally looked up at me, her voice quiet. "I didn't mean for it to go this far. It wasn't supposed to be like this." I let out a bitter laugh. "It wasn't supposed to be like this? Lara, you've been planning this for months. You've been planning your escape, your future with Damian Webb. You've been pulling the strings the whole time, manipulating me, our entire life together, to get what you wanted. And you expect me to believe that?" She winced at my words, but I could see the truth in her eyes. She didn't deny it. She couldn't. I didn't want to hurt you," she said, her voice trembling. I didn't know how to leave. I didn't know how to get out of it. You were always there, always, doing everything for me. And I just wanted to." "To what?" I interrupted, the anger rising in my chest. "To control me? To destroy everything we built for your own convenience?" "No," she exclaimed, her eyes wide with panic. "I never wanted to hurt you, look. I swear. I didn't know how to stop. I didn't know how to stop this life, this trap we were in." I shook my head, unable to process what she was saying. "This life? This trap? You think I was holding you back? I worked myself to the bone for us, Lara. I did everything for you, for us. And you just, what? You throw it all away for power? For a man who never gave a damn about you until it benefited him? Lara's face faltered, the veneer of control slipping for a moment. I never wanted it to be like this, she whispered again, softer this time. I could see the cracks in her mask, but it didn't make me feel any better. She had made her choice. She had planned this. And now, I was just a casualty in her game. I took a step back, my eyes locking onto hers. I don't even know who you are anymore. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted, she's gone. And now, all that's left is the wreckage. Lara's face crumpled, tears welling up in her eyes. But I didn't want to see her cry. I wanted answers. I wanted justice. You think this is easy for me? She choked out, her voice breaking. Do you think I wanted this? Do you think I wanted to lose everything? To hurt you? I didn't answer right away. My mind was racing, my heart still burning with the betrayal. She was still trying to twist this, to make it look like she was the victim. But I wasn't going to fall for it anymore. I'm done, Lara, I said, my voice cold and final. I'm done with your lies. I'm done with your manipulations. And I'm done trying to save something that you've already thrown away. She took a step toward me, her face desperate. Luke, please. No, I said firmly, shaking my head. You don't get to do this to me anymore. You've already taken everything. But I'm not giving you the satisfaction of watching me beg for an explanation. The truth is out there now. Everyone knows what you did. And I'm done. For a long moment, we stood there in silence. The weight of everything between us, everything we'd lost, hung in the air. And then I turned and walked out the door, leaving her standing there, tears falling down her face. I didn't look back. I walked away from that house knowing that I had finally taken control of my life again. It was a small victory, but it was enough. Lara had made her choice. And now, so had I. The storm wasn't over yet, but I was ready for whatever came next. The next few days felt like a strange, almost surreal blur. As much as I tried to prepare for the aftermath of my confrontation with Lara, nothing could quite prepare me for the weight of what came next. I had told her everything that had been festering inside me, everything I needed to say, but it didn't fix anything. It didn't change the fact that she had used me, or that everything I had worked for had crumbled in a way I never imagined. But it was done now. She was out of my life. The media storm had started to settle, and the public had moved on to the next scandal. The hospital had officially offered me reinstatement and a promotion, but I didn't want to go back to that life. Not the way things were. Not after everything that had happened. I sat at a small cafe on the outskirts of Willow Ridge, sipping my coffee, my mind finally starting to clear. The world had kept spinning, despite everything. And I realized, for the first time in what felt like forever, that I had a choice. Quinn Hunt, the woman who had helped me dig into the truth and uncover Lara's secrets, had become my ally in this battle. She was smart, driven, and unapologetically confident. The way she handled everything, turning my story into a media sensation, putting the truth in front of the public, and helping me take back control, had been nothing short of extraordinary. Quinn had called me that morning, just like she had every day since everything blew up, but today's conversation was different. She was telling me that the legal work was nearly done, that everything was in place, and that we had put the right people in motion to make sure Lara paid for everything she had done. But there was a new question on the table, one I hadn't been expecting. Look, she had said on the phone, her voice serious but warm. I've been thinking. You've got the money. The media has already built your narrative. You could go back to your old life, take that promotion at the hospital, rebuild everything you lost. But I want to ask you something. You don't have to answer now. But what if we left Willow Ridge? What if we started fresh? New city, new life, just the two of us. At first, I hadn't known how to respond. But after everything I'd been through, the lies, the betrayal, the media circus, I felt a kind of clarity that I hadn't known in months. It was an opportunity, a chance to build something new, without the weight of my past holding me back. I thought of the empty house, the place that used to feel like home, and I realized something. I wasn't tied to it anymore. I wasn't tied to Willow Ridge, to my past, to anything that had been. And just like that, I knew what I needed to do. The cafe was warm, the kind of place that smelled like fresh pastries and the strong scent of brewed coffee. I stared out the window at the fog rolling in over the hills, my mind whirring with possibilities. I hadn't made any definitive plans, but I knew I couldn't stay here. Not after everything. Not after all the lies and the games. I looked at my phone. There was a new text from Quinn. Ready to talk about it? I smiled. It was time. I tapped out a quick response. Yes. Let's go. The drive up the coast was quiet. The fog hung heavy over the cliffs as Quinn and I drove, neither of us saying much at first. but I could feel the weight of the decision settle between us. The car hummed quietly on the highway, the only sound the gentle whoosh of tires on wet asphalt. Finally, Quinn broke the silence. "I've been thinking about this for a while," she said, her voice steady but filled with a quiet excitement. "You know, this could be the fresh start we both need. You've been through hell, but you don't have to carry it with you. Not anymore." I nodded, glancing over at her. "I've been thinking about it too. There's nothing left for me in Willow Ridge. Not the hospital, not the house, not anything that came with that life. And what if we made our own future?" Quinn asked, her eyes focused on the road ahead. "No more playing by anyone else's rules. No more people like Lara, like your family, trying to tell you who you should be. Just us." For the first time in what felt like ages, I could breathe. For the first time, I could feel the weight of my past lifting off my shoulders. "Yeah," I said, my voice steady. "I think I'm ready for that." We drove north along the coast for hours, past the familiar landmarks of Willow Ridge, past the life I'd once known. The road ahead felt like it stretched forever, a promise of something new, something completely different. We didn't know exactly where we were going yet, but I didn't care. I just knew that for the first time in a long while, I felt like I was finally in control. I had the truth, and I had my future, whatever that looked like. And I didn't need anyone else's approval. As the coastline stretched out before us, I glanced over at Quinn, who smiled, a quiet but genuine smile. She was in this with me, and I knew that whatever came next, we would face it together. We didn't need Willow Ridge. We didn't need the life I'd been clinging to. We just needed each other. And with that, the road ahead felt like an adventure, a chance to start over. For the first time, I was free. We drove toward a new future, our future, together. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel and share your opinion about this story in the comments.